Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go. Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy Stuckrath with Thrive Meetings and Events and the Eating at a Meeting podcast. For the month of March, I am focusing on women who are making history in food and beverage. And I am excited to welcome today bartender and the drinking coach, Tiffanie Barriere. Hey, Tiffany.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Happy Wednesday, hump day.
Hump day, yes. It's middle of the week. We got a lot to do and fun on both sides.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So we were just chatting for a good 30 minutes before we got on the show, and I just love your story. And I heard you it was a couple of months ago, I guess, when you were live on Instagram with the La Dames from Atlanta and Marsha Middleton. It was so fun that you were mixing, it was National Rum Day, right?
Yes.
Very fun, Marsha dancing and getting her groove on. So tell everybody, because it's Women's History Month, I really want to focus on what you've accomplished and where you've come from and what you're doing. And I do love, what I love about you is you're a bartender that's educating, and you're educating with history lessons, and specifically Black history lessons. And then even more specifically, the Blacks in the hospitality industry and how they really are the backbone to the modern day hospitality industry. And I love that. But before we get to all of that, what inspired you and instigated you to do what you do today?
Oh, wow. Goodness. You know, it's pretty organic. I grew up in the South. I grew up in a house that always catered. The door was always open. The porch is always full. Mom, grandmas, aunties, always cooking something, offering you a drink. That's just the normal way of doing things, welcoming you in. And it was just so fun. You know, some people played with dolls. I played restaurants since I was a kid. So it was always fun to serve and help and do those things. And not until I got older, getting a job and coming through college, I jumped right in the restaurant. It seemed so organic and easy. Like, I could do this. And the money was fun and fast. And as I grew into the industry, I noticed, as everything, there's levels to everything in education and tables and seats at the table. And I started to compete, and I started to win. And
that's fun.
I paid attention to the way storytelling was happening when you created a cocktail. My mentors and some of the people that I watched on the side always told a fantastic story at the bar or through their cocktail. And I wanted to do that, but I felt a little shy on sharing it because African and Black history, just the stories are a little, jaded. They're a little dark. Some of them just don't have much of a silver lining. So I never really shared my narrative, but I did share it in the ingredients. So I had those like flavors of molasses and sorghum and fresh fruits from home. And I would just let it leak out every once in a while what I knew about the past and service industry. But again, you think about Black and African-American history when it comes to service, and it's not the best story. So I just had an aha moment. I was taking care of my father. He's no longer with us, but while I was in that time with him caretaking, my mindset just shifted on my true passion of creating cocktails and what I was representing. And also as a woman, here I am representing a Black woman in this industry from the South making cocktails. It just was like, wait a minute, what are you really doing? And I just looked at the larger picture, what I want to stand for, what I'd like to project. And then I just popped right into it. The pandemic happened. So I'm sure everybody has a pandemic pivot story. But not only did the pandemic happen to keep me home and back into my books, I love to read. I love history. But the country was going through a big change in multiple categories, especially with the movement of Black culture. And I just felt a need to share stories that weren't always the best, but have a better outcome. And that tends to be the storyline of Black and African American families in America. And so I started to go, you know what? Even though we're here, I'm going to share this story, and I'm going to share this story, and I'm going to share this story, because currently we're in a yucky state, but we're going to grow out of it. And I looked at the ancestors and I looked at these stories, and I'm like, but they created so many great things, so I can share these stories and put some highlight to it. And one story led to another, which led to another, and there are millions of more that I have to share. And we're going to stay on this path right now to share those stories that aren't told.
Well, and I love, it's so awesome. And we were talking before we got on here, the one that you just posted about Cecilia Allen. And some of your stories, they've got to be hard to find because they're not necessarily documented in even, in cookbooks or wherever. So where are you finding the stories?
Oh my gosh. Oh, you know what the rabbit hole is? That's where I go. I literally go into a rabbit hole. We have access to anything you're looking for, in all honesty. It's just how far you really want to go. So obviously there's the web, and you can start from there. But I dig even harder. There's some great library sites that you can jump onto. There's some great universities that share some stories that have been written, and some of those archives at universities can be anything from obituaries to wedding invitations to some of the census. And recently, that's where I'm stuck in. I'm looking at census names. I'm looking at the time frame of currently I'm looking at saloons in Kentucky, and who was living then, and what were they documented for doing. And I'm also digging a little deeper for not even the census, but also jail records.
Okay.
There's a reason, because there's a certain time frame that Americans, Black and white, are being arrested for bootlegging or gambling or shining. Shining. So that's my area. So I'm like, ooh, if this person was arrested for this crime, if that's a crime at this time, then once I find that name, I can dig even deeper to their family, where they came from, possibly where they're buried, just to give their name a little more love. They were working really hard to do what they did, and I get in there and I just dig and dig and dig, and then find the highlight of it. This is who I just found recently. I found her over a few months ago, but I wanted to share her for Women's Month. But she was very respected, and she owned a saloon, and it was a pretty good piece of land. But I wouldn't have found her if I was just researching the name. I had to literally go to the census, and sometimes Blacks and African Americans weren't even considered a person. So even finding that part was just like, whoa, Black woman, wait a minute. And so there was even a division in the census where there were Black Americans and white Americans in the census, and just finding that paperwork and taking the time to ask the right questions while you're researching has just been learning.
That is so intriguing and so fun. And then when do you have time? That takes a lot of research. So when are you creating new cocktails from the garden?
Yeah. It just kind of comes to me. Okay, this is silly, but most people are creatives. You have a creative. Don't think you don't. You do something really cool, right? Like you may think it's not cool, but it's really cool, whatever you do. So you're creative. You make time for it. And so once I do all the reading, I can't deny I'm exhausted and I need a cocktail. Like, I'm just like, wait a minute, I need a drink. Or I sip while I'm researching, and then it's like a eureka moment. I read something and I'm like, and just kind of start matching the pieces together. And it usually comes in my sleep. I will wake up the next morning and I'm like, yeah, this is what we should do. It's kind of like putting all the ingredients in a pot and letting it simmer, and then taking the top off the lid and going, oh, okay. Because now I've connected the facts with the time frame and put it into a story that can taste good, if that makes any sense.
That sounds delicious, actually.
Yeah.
So, okay, now let's jump to, I have two things. So you're a bartender behind the bar for a while, and I know, and I actually found you through Jonathan, well, besides Dom's, through Jonathan Pogash as well, the cocktail guru. But when did you jump from behind the bar to what you're doing, and explain to people, what you're doing now? And then, and then I have two other questions that just popped into my head.
Let them go. Let them roll.
Okay.
I've bartended, it seems like, my entire life. Again, I grew up in a pretty celebrating party kind of family. And so I feel like I've always been making drinks. I literally made drinks for my parents and my grandparents. Go in the kitchen, get us something, put it together. But I took it professionally in, I don't know, 90. But I started working at One Flew South in the airport in 2008. I opened and did that.
Great restaurant.
Yes, thank you.
And the best airport bar, right?
Yes, we were best airport bar to travel in the world for 3 years straight. That comes from James Beard, Forbes, and Time magazine. I ran that beverage program. We got Best in Service nominated from James Beard twice. So it was very special to us to not only be known as a great restaurant and bar, but to have some of the best service in the country. So that was cool. And then in 2017, I decided to just wing off. The craft cocktail or educated cocktail scene was starting to really grow, and kind of figure out, where are we going? Do you be a brand ambassador? Do you educate? Do you open your own bar? And I didn't know what I really wanted to do, but I knew I had a lot of connections, a lot of resources, a lot of friends. And I jumped off the boat. I just jumped off. I did not have a plan, Tracy. I'll tell you that. And anyone else, I had no plan whatsoever. I just knew that I wanted to get off the boat and swim, because I knew that this industry had a heartbeat, and I have a deep heartbeat. And I was like, something else has got to give besides the standard box of what bartenders are supposed to do. So I took all my resources and decided to continue to be the drinking coach, which we'll nag about that later, and give education, give those parts at the bar that you can't always get at the bar. Because when you're at the bar, you can only have that bartender for a split second, or you keep coming back to that bartender and you build up this relationship. But there were so many questions and conversations, and it just, people wanted more intimate connections. And I found that pretty quickly once I went independent, and I started doing a lot of virtual classes. Well, no, before the virtual class thing, I started flying to other cities to work with different chefs and different bartenders and different farms. Like, whatever your city was doing, I was like, I want to come there. I want to do a pop-up. Like, I want to do what I did at One Flew South. Like, I just wanted to see what you had at your bar, see what kind of ingredients you had that was local, pair up with the chef, boom, let's have a dinner. It just seemed like the thing to do. And then, of course, mixing that in with all the food and wines and all the symposiums, any kind of education I could get in the industry definitely had to be there. And charities, of course. And then that got really hard. I couldn't stretch myself. I wanted to build a business and have other people work with me and for me, but they were still lacking the intimacy, because they were like, I want you. And I was like, how's that going to work? So I started to really organize it. I thought about, YouTubing everything and putting up great content, but that still wasn't as engaging as I wanted to. And then I just started reaching a different way, events that had a little more charity, more involvement, a little more farm involvement, supporting my local farmers who do all the work, and really bringing that glass, that literally the grassroots of what we do into hospitality. And that held on for quite some time. And brands started picking up on it. They're like, you know what? Yeah, we got to do that. We're missing that space. We're missing that part. And then the pandemic happened, and everything that I said, those past few sentences, happened right here on this computer. It went insane. I literally, I counted in December how many Zoom presentations I'd done. I did 107 from March 2020 to December. To my last was holiday, December 23rd, 2020.
Wow.
I had so many classes speaking on so much content. It was ridiculous. I was bonkers. I'm still bonkers right now. I'm crazy right now. But I'm seeing that the education, the intimacy, the curveball, the vulnerability, having a conversation about race and having a conversation about ingredients and having the comfort of talking about fear of the way whiskey tastes or what tequila does to you. And it just, and of course, throwing lots of history stories in there and anatomy. And, it's so much fun. It, to me, is what hospitality and serving is all about.
That is so heartwarming, and it's refreshing. And we were talking before we got on here, but so you're Black, you're a woman, you're queer, you're from the South.
Yeah.
And you weave all of that into these phenomenal stories and these phenomenal 106 programs that you've done. And I just think that's astounding and remarkable. And so kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you, JP.
You're welcome. Okay. So one thing that I want to touch on that you said there was garden. And so I love, and you said it beforehand, before we got on, garden to glass, right?
Grass to glass.
Grass to glass.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Grass
to glass, something that I have wanted to talk about 5 years. I did do a presentation at Food and Wine here in Atlanta, grass to glass, but it was a little different than what I'm doing this week, actually this month, with an awesome brand. So my best friend and I have a community bartender's garden here in East Atlanta. It's a 1/4 acre of land. There's 40 plots, small, or there's a few large ones, where bartenders can go and grow, take care, nourish, bless whatever they want to grow that goes in a cocktail. We used to be very, very sassy when purveyors would come through the back door and talk to the chef, and we'd be like, up here, hey, we want to do something with herbs. We want to do something with fruits and veggies. And we wanted to just kind of show how creative we were. And so we figured if we can't go buy it and we're sourcing other places, why not grow it ourselves? So it's all for bartenders who go out there and plant what they like. That way they can pickle, juice, syrup, shrub, or fresh eat their ingredients to incorporate into a cocktail. So literally true grass to glass. We bring the baby up. We opened the garden up last week for planting your seedlings. And of course, Atlanta weather is perfect for growing. We've got compost piles out. We've got some great, starting to get great membership with soil groups and different compost groups. We're getting some good education because everyone doesn't have a green thumb. We just know how to eat it and drink it. But we've got some people coming out there to teach you how to mill your garden and talk about soils and pesticides. And it's just been really fun and educating for us and other bartenders. We did not think this was going to happen. She's more of the spearhead. I'm just the eye candy on the side. I'm just here. But we're just enjoying the engagement of what's true to our roots and to our culture.
Okay, so, and I was telling you about a restaurant that I went to where I live, and I said, "Can you fix me a mocktail, a really good mocktail?" And she's like, "Do you want the juice out of the jar?" And I'm like, "No, just give me just give me my club soda, please." And there's one restaurant that does really good mocktails in my town, Cypress Hall. And, but I was like, yeah, no, thanks. But so do you see, and I know you've been at Tales of the Cocktail as well. And I think you were a Dom of the Year in 2020.
Yes.
And Congratulations on that. But do you see a lot more bartenders going that route and bringing the farm to table or to the bar?
Yeah, it's always been there. But we're now incorporating more of those herbs and spices and fruits into a liquid form. You used to just see it as a garnish.
Right.
And not all of us, it's just up to you. But once you learn what something tastes like, you want to do something else with it. So, and definitely with the focus on mental health and just where we are right now as a country, everyone doesn't want a cocktail. And so creating mocktails and knowing the balance and flavors of different ingredients are definitely happening from fresh ingredients for sure.
That's just really fun. Okay, so since it is Women's History Month, I'm going to jump a little bit about you. And you mentioned your mom and you mentioned your grandmother. So what pieces of advice have you gotten from the women in your life that you do now? Sorry.
When it comes to the kitchen, correct?
Whatever, life. Yep.
Okay. I'll break this up. So like personal and kitchen, because I am who I am because of the kitchen. In life, my grandmother, who I just spoke with last night, 83 years old in Port Arthur, Texas, every single time we speak, the last thing she says is, don't let anyone take your joy. And it took me a long time to really figure all that out. Whenever I would be sad or someone picked on me in school or you had a breakup, I would tell my grandma, I would be crying and she would say, you let someone take your joy. And so she would blame me. I would go, and she's like, no, you can't give it up. You've got to protect your joy. So never let anyone take it. And I keep that with me at all times, followed by it's okay to cry. And I will cry in a heartbeat. Don't ever hold it in because it sucks. It's really bad. So don't let anyone take your joy. I never cry. And when it comes to the kitchen, I can still hear anyone in my kitchen saying this. Don't throw anything away. Don't throw anything away. Like, let me see it. Like everything we chopped, shuck, the caps of anything, my grandmothers or aunts, mom, they have to see what we have. Like we used everything. We used every piece of every single thing. And then if we did have stems or seeds or caps of something that went into either compost or some kind of, I don't even know what my mom and family, they just never went away. Occasionally in the trash can, potato peels, they went into compost. Sweet potato, the trash was only full of paper. It was never any food. So never throw anything away. And that's taught me how to make great cocktails and cook very well. I don't know if you can see I have a pot on my stove right now.
Oh, yeah.
There is in that cast iron, in that Dutch is a ginger and garlic stuffed pork loin.
Pork loin, you said?
Yeah, pork loin stuffed with ginger and garlic.
Oh.
I'm craving it. And my mom was like, what are you cooking for dinner today? And I was like, I'm cooking early because I have a long day in the garden. And I told her I'm using garlic. And she's like, you didn't waste anything, did you? And I was like, Mom, God. No, I didn't waste anything.
Well, I'm in California visiting friends, and they just got their bin to keep in the kitchen to throw the waste, because where they are, they actually do the green waste recycling. And so like banana peels, garlic peels, everything is there. And it's so good.
It's so good. I was just in Target this past week, and they have in the kitchen section, the start of a compost bucket for anyone. So we have no more excuses to say, well, we don't do that in my neighborhood or my town or my city. Everyone does it. And the ground is everywhere. You can do it for your own ground. It's so helpful. Even if you're not into gardening, the soil needs back what it gave you. So give it back.
So LA is very active on here, and I love it. She's saying we compost a ton at our house.
Oh, wonderful. Keep it up. Keep it up.
And I have to say, I did it in my house in Atlanta before I moved, but I made it too high and it was too hard to flip. I wanted one of those rotating ones, and I had a guy helping me flip it, and it was loaded with bees. So I apologize to him now. So you have to make sure that you're rotating it for sure.
Yes. They're easy to start. I encourage anyone to do it. It's not that hard. And if you don't have it in your city or town, maybe you can be the one to start it.
Yeah. Okay. So who have been your role models as you've progressed through the years, as well as maybe in the last year?
The amazing Toni Tipton Martin. We speak often.
Yeah.
I love her to death. She's like an auntie to me. She has open door at all times. She's very honest, very candid, and I love her to death. She keeps me in my space. She keeps me knowing that I can be humble and I can cry, but I can also be a boss. So she helps me with that often. The wonderful Kelly Fields in New Orleans. That's my babe. I love her. I love everything she represents. I love the energy that she holds. And of course I love her food. Like she's everything. She's awesome. And there's a young girl here. Actually, she just moved from New Orleans to Atlanta named Janae Williams. She's a young bartender that brings all the spark and fun that I think the hospitality scene definitely needs. I'm the spunky fun one too. I'm not the nerdy one that's like all stiff. And she does it. And she's the future of cocktails for me.
That's awesome. Well, and I love that it's a variety of different people.
Yeah.
Because we have to get our spark from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Adds to our spark. Yeah. Okay. So what has been one of your greatest obstacles? And then on the flip side, your greatest joys with what you do?
Oh, wow. My greatest obstacle. Quitting any job is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I left what seems like the Oscars of a restaurant. I was killing it. We were everything. Money was great. The energy was great. We were so successful and the regulars were amazing, but I left because I stuck with my gut. I left because I really wanted to give more to the industry, and I did it, and I stuck with it, and I cried a lot, and I was broke a lot, but through those tears and through, really hustling in my mind and challenging myself, I grew. And because of that, that dark spot, I'm who I am and where I am today. So I think that is, it's a testimony for sure. It was a tough one. But as my dad would tell me, he's like, you're sticking with this thing, huh? And I'm like, I don't really know what else to do. I mean, I kind of knew, but I knew it made me sleep well. And I knew it made me, sweat and cry. And I knew what I was doing it for. So yeah, I'm thinking about it.
No, I think it's the combination of that. It just makes it so much more valuable and heartfelt, that it's the obstacle, but also the joy that you've received from that obstacle. I think that's awesome. Okay. So Ellie wants to know what you do with your compost once it's ready.
I take it to my garden. I've got a garden. Well, currently the one at home, I have a small one at home. We just spread that out. I just tilled the yard 2 weeks ago. And we're just spreading that out just so we can get ready to plant some seedlings. But my big ones, like what I did during the winter, I took out to a garden I have about 2 miles away.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And mix it with some dirt and manure.
Right. Yeah. And it helps. It's rejuvenating the garden itself.
So rich.
Okay. Now she wants to know what you're growing.
So I'm in between. So I love arugula. I did not do arugula last year.
Love arugula.
I'm getting started early because it won't do so well once it gets really hot and scorching here in Atlanta. So arugula, I always do tomatoes because I can eat tomatoes like apples every day, all day. And last year was my first year growing tea. So I grew chamomile. Oh, wow. I started with some hibiscus flower. And what was the third? What's the third flower? What was my third? We've got white tea leaves. So we're going to try to grow out some tea alongside the corner because the chamomile did really good. Like try chamomile, spot on. And bell peppers. We got to pickle those. Bell peppers and jalapenos. Plus they're great for the garden.
Okay. So I'm really intrigued by growing tea.
So I thought it was a joke. Again, I did it for the first time last year. I had no idea what I was really doing, but you can actually, I started with chamomile and then the white tea flower. I've purchased them and planted them in shade, more cooler than the sun. And out came these beautiful, beautiful flowers. And so snipped them and steeped them. And there I had chamomile tea. I don't know why I thought it was like a fairy tale that can happen, but it can, because obviously in botany, you can grow tea. And we did chamomile martinis last year in the garden.
Wow.
We did. It didn't
again.
It didn't. I know. It didn't give us, it gave us the butteriness of the chamomile, but we did incorporate, a little bit of other loose leaf chamomile just because we had friends and family over. We wanted martinis in the garden, but it grows like really tall. It looks like, you lived in Atlanta, Tracy, that it looks like it looks like chamomile, like something like a weed that would grow just anywhere off on the side. You'd be surprised. Google, look at visions of chamomile flowers, and you might be growing it right in your backyard.
Okay, good to know. And LA is very pleased. Excellent use of tea.
Martini.
Oh, good point. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so we're getting up to that. We're actually a little bit over that 30 minutes, but so I have two questions. How you're giving history with your cocktails, and so how do you want to be remembered in history?
Oh, that's a great question. I want to be remembered as kind and approachable, fun, very boozy, very, very boozy, and just natural. And that word in all sense, just natural, sad, happy, colorful, sassy, spicy, all of the things. I just want to be remembered that you can truly be all of yourself, and it can all be respected, because I am, for sure. So I'd like people to know about me.
That's awesome. Okay, so if you could invite anyone in history to your dinner table or to your bar, who would you invite and why? Dead or alive?
No brainer. Stevie Wonder.
Oh my God, yes.
No brainer. He has to come to my bar. He has to come to my house. He has to have a cocktail with me. I think he is one of the best people in the entire world. He is the eighth wonder of the world. He is the epitome of culture and art and literature and fun. I've seen him in concert 3 times. It was like going to a church revival. I cried like a child. And I've seen him do multiple interviews, and he's really, really funny. He makes jokes about everything, and he apparently he has a great play of accents. So he loves to do accents, and I would love to have a cocktail with Stevie and just laugh all day.
So I have to tell you my Stevie story. So I used to work in the apparel industry for a magazine, and there was a company in LA called Stitches Technology, and it was putting kids in, teaching them apparel, education to get them jobs and things. And he was dating the founder's sister. And so she wanted to give him an award for his support of the program. And so I made a plaque, and it was in Braille so he could read it. He didn't show up that year, but it was just awesome. But the next year we did it again, and we invited him to come because he had challenged the industry on making Braille labels in shirts or in clothing, because he doesn't know what color shirt he has when he's pulling out of his closet on his own. And I just happened to put a piano on the stage.
Just because there was one round.
And he played for 30 minutes. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I have chills. My mother, I love him, but when I was younger, my mom, so Stevie was on Sesame Street. We know. He was all the things. And my mom tells the story way better than me. But after Stevie got off of Sesame Street, and I knew his music in the house, and I saw him on Sesame Street, My mother says I just start just bawling, crying when he goes off TV. And my mom's like, it's okay, it'll come on again. No, we couldn't rewind then. And I'm crying so hard. My mom says I would not stop. And she says, why are you crying? And I kept saying, I don't want him to die. I just don't want him to die. And I feel that way to this day. For Valentine's, I actually got his vinyl. I have Songs in the Key of Life on vinyl. I love him. I could talk about Stevie every day. But if and when he will. When he leaves this world, I will fly. I'll be one of those fans that flies to the city to be there. I love him so much.
Ellie just said he moved to France, so we got to go to France.
That's fine. Okay.
I'll go with you because
no problem.
I mean, he's remarkable. Yeah, I can play his music all day long.
Me too. We should do it today just to vibe out.
There was, oh my gosh, I don't even remember the name of it, but the song that I did a dance routine to when I was like 8 years old in Virginia Beach, and we were in the high school gym doing it, and I love that song. I'll send it to you. I'll have to somehow figure out how to do it. But yeah. Oh, this was such a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, you're fun. I hate to hang up with you. We can do it again though. Yes,
let's definitely do it again. And I know you've got a day in the garden with, can I say it? With who?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Bon Appetit.
Yes.
6 hours in the garden this afternoon with Bon Appetit magazine. So that's exciting. You're filming though, so it's not for the magazine.
Yes, and there'll be some things that'll come on their Instagram Live and some other things. We're just getting some content on, what we're doing and whatnot. And I'll be speaking on botanicals and what to do with them for the remainder of the month and then walking into spring.
Awesome. I will definitely make sure that I pay attention to that. So thank you, Tiffanie Barriere. I love what you're doing. Thank you for bringing history to us through your cocktails, and thank you for making history with your cocktails.
Thanks so much, Tracy. It was so nice chatting with you.
Likewise. Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.